I am a man, but I feel like I'm a woman or something of that nature does not mean that all of the women, the biological women who are in the other prison population, have to lay down all of their rights and be subjected to this individual who is being put in with the other women. I mean, you've even seen some articles over the last few weeks of instances where that has caused sexual abuse.
President Trump has signed an executive order that bans transgender women from entering female prisons. Is that correct?
That is the correct amount of action that must be taken because there are only two genders and it is defined by your birth. It is science, it is biological. And whenever you have these instances, wherever somebody says they're a trans person, particularly a man who says that he is a woman, the basic policy under the Biden administration is that all of the other women or all of the women have to lay down their rights to accommodate this man who says that he is a woman. That not only is very abhorrent to the women themselves, but it also detracts from the entire purpose of the military. This fighting force that must be prepared, must be ready to go out and fight. So I think that it is the correct and appropriate action to take because otherwise it just detracts from the main mission.
And what about the argument from some that transgender women, which is in other words men, they would be threatened in male prisons? This isn't a safe place for them.
Well, to that argument, I would say that there could probably be accommodations made to where they aren't in general population. But again, that is because it is a single instance of somebody that comes out and says, hey, I am a man, but I feel like I'm a woman or something of that nature does not mean that all of the women, the biological women who are in the other prison population, have to lay down all of their rights and be subjected to this individual who is being put in with the other women. I mean, you've even seen some articles over the last few weeks of instances where that has caused sexual abuse on behalf of the person that says that they are a woman in women's prison, and that can't happen. So if we have to isolate individuals or put them outside of general population, maybe that's a solution if somebody comes forward and says this. But it doesn't mean that we have to accommodate all of these different individuals who come out and say this and at the expense of other individuals' rights, just try to make that a situation that works for them.
And what do you make more broadly of Trump's ban on DEI? Sorry, I'm going to ask that again. What do you make more broadly of Trump's ban on DEI in the federal government?
This must happen, and I'm so glad that he put a definitive ending point on these offices, saying that they had to be closed by 5 p.m. on a particular day this past week, because the DEI policies that have infiltrated our federal government have not contributed to the American people. They, in fact, have been racist towards other individuals. So whenever you institute these policies, it puts down individuals who, through merit, have come up and worked in the system, and it elevates other individuals not on merit. And then there's a whole host of other issues that we have when we deal with this that does not allow for our federal government to serve the American people best. So I'm glad that he's taken these steps because it essentially required an apology from the federal government to a lot of Americans who have been abused at the hands of these different offices and have injected a cultural Marxist mentality into a workforce where it shouldn't have been present.
And do you think that emails going out to various federal agencies, staff there, telling staff to report on DEI that is kind of renamed within 10 days is a bit, I mean, that's been criticized as being a bit kind of authoritarian. You're getting staff basically to try and snitch on each other if DEI is still in the department. What do you make of this email?
Yeah, I would reject that argument because what ultimately happens is you have individuals who are trying to subvert their bosses and trying to subvert what the rule of law is now that the Trump administration has come in a second time. And so it's not necessarily individuals who are like trying to root out one another, but rather it is making sure that they are compliant with the policy that has been set forward from the mandate of the American people, and now this must take place. We have to ensure that all of the policies align with what the outcome of the election was. And so there's been an effort to be deceptive on behalf of individuals who have been part of this DEI policy. I saw one example in the federal government where they changed the name of the chief diversity officer to somebody who was like a special advisor. It essentially means that role continues, even though the mandate has been handed down. And that is what the American people want to get rid of, this sort of behind the scenes switcheroo and the mentality where, well, you just change a title, but nothing actually really changes. That's got to stop. And so if people see that, it's a see something, say something mentality. It's not like we're trying to root out and destroy individuals. We are trying to root out and destroy particular policies.
And do you think it's right that Trump has withdrawn the security of various members of government. So Anthony Fauci, Mike Pompeo, John Bolton. Was that the right decision?
I think that we can't have individuals who are no longer part of the government in perpetuity have a security detail. I think that there is law enforcement correspondence that will happen on the local level with these individual members. That doesn't mean that they've just completely stripped away every civil every civil protection that they have. It just means that the taxpayers from the federal government standpoint are no longer funding this continuous protection, which can be very, very expensive. And so there are local recourses. Whenever we had a situation when I was working in Congress, if somebody needed a particular security detail, we reached out immediately to the local sheriff's office and we worked with them to coordinate an appropriate response. So it doesn't mean that they are just completely unprotected. It means that it is incumbent on a different level of law enforcement to make sure that these folks are protected.
And on the issue of immigration, we saw videos recently of illegal Haitian migrants shouting "F Trump, Biden forever," and saying he's never going to go back to Haiti. What do you make of this deportations program that began this week?
Tom Homan's response to that individual was entirely appropriate. He said he's wrong. He is going back to Haiti. And that sort of mentality among the illegal immigrants who entered our country to commit crimes is something that must be exposed. And it's why we have to have these deportations, because these folks were living in and amongst America. And the Biden administration knew about it. They knew these people existed and they did nothing. They did nothing to protect the American people. They did nothing to protect our children and our families. And so Trump going in and deporting these folks is not only getting rid of those who are already here in the United States, but it's sending a shot across the bow and a message to the cartels who for years have profited off of human smuggling and drug smuggling and human trafficking, that we're no longer going to tolerate that in the United States. There's a new sheriff in town and he's going to be kicking out doors and dragging out the criminals.
Trump has been president for less than a week. How do you rate his first week in office?
I got to be very close to the president during the 2021 leading up to the midterm period of time, and then also working on the campaign in different roles over the last couple of years. And I saw throughout the rallies he would make promise after promise after promise to Americans, and I'm sitting back going, these are a ton of promises. How on earth is he going to get them all done on day one or in the first week? But you have seen him come in with a slew of executive orders, and even before he was sworn into office, he was going around the world meeting with world leaders and essentially buying a couple of extra months on the front term of his presidency to establish the tone of his administration. Not only have you seen that, but you've seen him reach out to members of Congress and make sure we don't have a protracted speaker battle, that we got right to work, and that we started implementing these bills to get them across the House of Representatives and the United States Senate so that they can go to the president's desk and he can codify into law a lot of the orders that he's already set in place through executive order for longer than his administration is going to last. So you've seen one after another, even before he was sworn into office, instances where he has set the tone for his administration, and he's going to make sure that we get America back to what it was. And coming back in the second time means he knows what happened in the first term in office, and he knows who the right people to hire were and the wrong people to hire, which means he's right on track for the second term.
So you're excited for the next 4 years?
I'm very excited for the next 4 years. Up in D.C. where I am, the tone has just dramatically shifted. And it's really encouraging to see a lot of people who normally would not come within a square mile of Donald Trump start to recognize that the mainstream narrative of him is completely false. And they have come back into the fold a little bit and had productive conversations. And the president is a very forgiving person. And he's been able to interact with folks like Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and discuss how we can treat all Americans fairly. He's been calling out different industries that have been unfair to conservatives, and that goes to the DEI policies as well. A lot of times the DEI policies in different corporations result in discrimination against conservatives. That has to stop. So I'm excited for the next 4 years because I think that he is going to be able to bring America back to a populist conservatism that the rest of the world can look at and mirror.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the GBN America YouTube channel.